we can't gaslight the American people into not feeling what they feel or to not believing what they believe and just pretend like it's not an issue and we just want to talk about abortion or something else. We have to address these issues head on, and we have to be able to then have a positive message that explains coherently to people why our policies are the ones that will help them.
All right, we are back. He's the congressman from New York's 10th Congressional District, representing Lower Manhattan, a little bit of Brooklyn. He was lead counsel in the first impeachment of Donald Trump. It's Dan Goldman. How you doing, Congressman?
I'm great, Tim. Good to see you.
Great? You're great?
You know, you gotta be positive. You gotta be optimistic.
Okay, I like that. I'm doing my best. I'm here. I'm surviving, but great. I'm aspiring to great. It's hard to even know where to start, but I guess we have two new transition choices since yesterday's pod. Both have extensive reality TV experience, so that's pretty key. Linda McMahon is going to be running the Department of Education, and Dr. Oz will be running CMS, which is totally like not a serious job at all, that you'd want to have somebody who has like subject matter expertise and, you know, a history of, you know, understanding bureaucracies and Medicare repayments. And anyway, so you can take either of those that you want. Did either of those jump out at you?
What jumps out at me is the consistency of these picks. Some are objectively worse than others, but all of them reflect Donald Trump's disregard for our government. Frankly, just simply how our government operates and all of the essential functions that our government performs. These are two more political sycophants, people who will do whatever Donald Trump wants. And he's trying to lay a foundation with these picks where he can execute his worst instincts. And it is such a clear reaction, I would say overreaction, to where his frustration from the first term, when you had competent, patriotic people who were in these significant positions who put guardrails around him, whether it be John Kelly or Mark Milley or Rex Tillerson or Jim Mattis or Mark Esper, and the list goes on, Mike Pence, of course, in the final days. Yeah. And all Donald Trump is focused on clearly is not doing that again. And so qualifications, competency matters not at all. All that matters is that he believes and trusts that these are not only political supporters, but they're sycophantic loyalists, and they will do whatever he wants. And that's where the real danger lies.
I think experience on television and having a few kind of sex-related allegations are also seem to be key, sort of resume builders for people.
Before you went to the second point there, Tim, I was going to say you would really be excellent now.
I know. This is what I'm saying. Why did I leave? Why did I leave the party? You know, why couldn't I have come around on Trump? I would have been, who knows what job I could have had, you know, prime qualification is ability to go on television. Alas, I'm stuck with you guys now, you know. I'm stuck with the side that actually, you know, that wants somebody to run CMS who actually cares that people on Medicaid get the services that they want and, you know, have ability to understand how the bureaucracy can work more efficiently. It's unfortunate.
Yeah, look, and not only is there the basic functioning and the critical role that CMS plays in making sure that Medicare, Medicaid are executed and implemented properly, but it is very clear that, and Donald Trump has said this, that he wants to cut these entitlements. He wants to cut Medicaid to pay for tax cuts for the wealthy. And he is putting someone like Oz in there, or someone like Linda McMahon in the Department of Education, which Trump has said he wants to eliminate. He's putting these people in, Matt Gaetz, and the Attorney General, who wants to get rid of the FBI, who wants to undermine the DOJ, RFK Jr., who, is a vaccine denier, and all of his public health views are contrary to science, and he's not, of course, a doctor. All of this is an effort for Donald Trump to really undo and dismantle the proper functioning of our government. And it is scary because people don't realize how essential these departments are and how important it is that you have someone who's competent, who can oversee these critical roles that every American relies on, whether they realize it or not.
Yeah, I think that's astute, and particularly in the Medicaid area. I think their plans for Medicaid cutting is maybe like the most underappreciated and reported element of what's coming down the pike, of the things that we kind of know is coming, because they're going to have to find ways to pay for the, extending the tax cuts, et cetera. And like, this is in all of their plans, and it certainly seems like something that Dr. Oz will go along with. I wonder what worries you most, just kind of as you assess all that? And I think it ties to kind of the next topic, which what can Democrats do now during the lame duck to try to put some guardrails around, potential the worst potential actions. But like as you assess these picks, like what are the things that you're the most concerned about?
This goes back to what my biggest concern probably of Project 2025 is, which is Schedule F. And what that would do is essentially eliminate all of the protections for the career experts, the civil servants, the foreign service officers in the Department of State, career military officials, DOJ officials. And what that will do is allow Donald Trump or his cabinet secretaries, who oversee and run those departments, to get rid of anyone they want for any reason, and then to be able to put whomever they want. And as we've seen from his picks at the top, qualifications and competency do not matter. And so what scares me is that this is the first step in completely dismantling our executive branch and our government. And the risks are immense, because I'll give you one example, and this is Tulsi Gabbard, who has questionable contacts with foreign leaders to oversee our intelligence community. If she then removes people who are experts in intelligence gathering and assessment, what that will do is mean there will be very few sources of intelligence that give us critical information, that give us information about what Vladimir Putin is doing, or what China is doing, or what Iran is doing. We will lose them because people won't know how to handle them. Our intelligence community cannot be trusted. Yeah. Tulsi Gabbard and Donald Trump will use intelligence for political purposes, and they will burn sources. So we will lose sources, and none of our allies will provide us with their intelligence. That is going to make our national security at much, much more risk. People do not understand how important it is that we get that information, how often that information is used to thwart terrorist attacks, to thwart criminal gangs. And that's just one example of how what Donald Trump is doing is laying the foundation to dismantle our government. And people will say, oh, well, it's a bloated bureaucracy. And that may be the case. I don't disagree that our government does not run as efficiently as it should. I agree. But the way to attack that is not to just completely destroy these departments, because the work that they do is critical for our national security. It's critical for all of the programs that people rely on. And if your goal is to tear it down, you are going to put Americans at risk. You are going to put Americans in greater poverty, and you are going to create crisis after crisis.
It's interesting. Every smart person I ask that question, what are they the most worried about? The answer comes back around to Gabbard, basically. And I do think there's a misalignment between that and kind of what is in the public discussion right now. But yeah, just what you're talking about, the sources and methods, and some of it is her expelling people, but some of it is just people opting out, right? Like, we have to have some concerns about like intelligence sharing and our allies and sources, like there being a period of feeling less comfortable sharing information.
Well, look, remember when Donald Trump provided highly classified information from one of our allies to the Russian foreign minister in the Oval Office. That set off a whole cleanup operation for that country to protect that source, get them out of harm's way, and it eliminated that source of information. Now, imagine if that is on steroids and that happens all the time. That information that we get from sharing from our allies and from our own sources who will run away because they won't be protected is I can't emphasize how vital it is to our national security. And if you think that Tulsi Gabbard, who cozies up to Putin and Assad, is going to be respecting and using our intelligence for proper purposes and apolitical purposes, you're sorely mistaken. And that puts every American at risk.
A couple of things you guys are working on now. You're a co-sponsor with Don Beyer on the Security Clearance Review Act, because I guess these guys aren't vetting people for security clearances anymore. You have a resolution on reaffirming the 22nd Amendment, which for people who don't know, you're about to really familiarize yourself with that, which is the ability to not run for a third term. Talk about those efforts and just other things that can be done between now and January 20th.
Yeah, I mean, we will certainly try to do everything we can, and some of this is, making sure that Republicans and Trump are on notice that this is not going to be, some cakewalk running roughshod over our democracy, that they are going to be called out and they are going to be challenged in everything that they do. I think there are sort of two key pathways that we need to go on. The first is Donald Trump is appointing or nominating these cabinet secretaries at record pace, but the Senate is still controlled by Democrats. The administration is still the Biden administration. So if it is true that Donald Trump and his administration are going to try to bypass the FBI and the proper security clearances, which is just absolutely bewildering to me when you think of someone like Tulsi Gabbard, who would oversee our intelligence community, the Democrats can still do something while they have the majority in the Senate. And they can request or even subpoena all sorts of information from the FBI, from the intelligence community, from any other vetting agency while they have the majority before January 3rd. And so I have urged my Senate colleagues to get jumping on that because that's something that's within their power to do. And that is a way of getting out in front, I guess, of some of the issues that will be coming down the pipeline. And the other thing that I think we really need to emphasize, and I get asked all the time, oh, what are you going to do to stand up for the Constitution? What are you going to do to stand up for the rule of law? I take an oath to the Constitution, as does every single Republican congressperson and senator. And my oath is no different than theirs. And the Republican elected officials take an oath to the Constitution, not Donald Trump. And they have to uphold the Constitution. They have to uphold the rule of law. They have to uphold our system of checks and balances. And we cannot fall into a trap where everyone just looks at the Democrats to be the bulwark for the rule of law and the Constitution. We have to, all of us have to hold Republicans accountable. The one silver lining in everything that has happened, in my view, is that the Republicans selected John Thune to be the Senate Majority Leader over Rick Scott, who was clearly Donald Trump's preferred candidate. And what that indicates to me is that the Senate Republicans still take their oath, at least some of them, very seriously, including John Thune.
I don't know about very seriously, but okay, potentially seriously.
I will give him the benefit of the doubt.
Okay, that's fine.
And until proven otherwise, because we have to have some faith that we know what Donald Trump wants to do. But Donald Trump can only execute his goals if he has accomplices in Congress, if he has complicity from John Thune and Mike Johnson and the other leaders. And we cannot let them off the hook. They have an obligation to our country, not to Donald Trump. And just because Donald Trump just overloads the zone with so many unqualified cabinet picks does not mean that there's a negotiation where you get to say, okay, well, you have 5 completely absurd cabinet picks, so we'll let you choose 3 and we'll reject 2. No, each one, they have an obligation to evaluate on their merits themselves. And if that means that you don't confirm 5 out of 5 because they don't meet the standards that the Senate has historically set for advising and consenting on nominees, then that's what you have to do. And that is really important, I think, for all of us to start stressing. It's not just what the Democrats can do in the minority. It is the Republicans who are in the majority who are the ones who are really obligated to uphold the Constitution.
Less optimistic than you on that front, but I appreciate you setting the standard for them. The holiday season is tough on skin. Colder weather, stuffy indoor heating, and nonstop festivities can lead to a dull, dehydrated pallor. That's where today's sponsor, OneSkin, comes in. Their scientifically proven products are designed to support your skin at the cellular level so it looks and feels healthier and holiday ready. Founded by an all-woman team of scientists, OneSkin focuses on skin longevity, not just surface-level improvements. It's all thanks to their proprietary OS1 peptide, the first of its kind to switch off the cells that cause skin to become more vulnerable. Don't just take my word for it. OneSkin has over 6,300 5-star reviews for their moisturizers, cleanser, and sunscreen. For a limited time, try OneSkin for 15% off using code BULWARK when you check out at oneskin.co. This holiday season, invest in your skin's long-term health because healthy skin is a gift. And I feel like my gift to all of the straight men that listen to the Bulwark is just the knowledge of moisturizing. You know, face moisturizing goes a long way, and the amount of feedback I've been receiving from straights that didn't know about this or thought that that was just a thing that their wives or girlfriends did, to me, feels like something that you guys should be sending me a gift back, honestly. I should be getting some little stocking stuffers from all of the straight guys in my life who are now looking more fresh because they've turned to OneSkin. Certainly true for me. I started using the OneSkin body lotion as well. You know, you start to, when you get into your 40s, you start to see that old man skin start to come up. You don't want that. You don't want that, okay? It's not as important as the face maybe, but nobody wants it on their hands or shoulders either. And so I've been doing the full body OneSkin lately and seeing the results. OneSkin is the world's first skin longevity company. OneSkin addresses skin health at the molecular level, targeting the root causes of aging so skin behaves, feels, and appears younger. It's time to get started with your new face, eye, and body routine at a discounted rate today. Get 15% off with code BULWARK at oneskin.co. That's 15% off oneskin.co with code BULWARK. After you purchase, they'll ask you where you heard about them. Please support our show and tell them we sent you. We only have one body, one skin, and only you can choose to make it better. Age healthy with OneSkin. Hey, y'all, if you love this podcast and want to listen to all Bulwark podcasts ad-free, join Bulwark Plus today. You can click the link in this description. You'll get the best politics newsletters in the business, and you can become a Bulwark Plus member right now. We'd appreciate it. On this thing and what's happening on the Hill, though, so just yesterday over in California 13, we have your potentially new colleague, Adam Gray. There's an influx of votes. They take way too long to count in California, and you should fucking fix that, California. But a new batch of votes came in. Seems like he might beat Republican Congressman John Duarte, which would take their majority down to 220. And then a couple of them, Stefanik, Waltz, are going to be gone at least for a little while. That gets you down to 218. And they have a very narrow majority. I already saw Chip Roy and Anna Paulina Luna sniping each other on Twitter. I mean, I don't know. Are you doing any charm offensives over there with any of the gettable Republicans? Because it's unbelievable how narrow their ability is going to be to maneuver.
Yeah, I mean, that's exactly right. And when they get down to 218 or 217, they have a one vote spread, which means every single member of the Republican Party is the deciding vote on every single thing that runs through. And that is assuming everyone is there. And as we see, sometimes people are sick or they have other family obligations, and you often
decide
don't have
they want to go
attendance.
Be a university president or whatever. Who knows?
Right. You get some people who are, who don't show up, and there's no margin for error. And it also means that each of the Don Bacons or Mike Lawlers or some of these purple district Republicans who have close elections, are in democratically majority districts and who win, their individual vote is determinative of what the Congress does. And that is, as you look 2 years down the road at the next election, which comes pretty quickly, that can have a real impact. And so last Congress, what we saw, of course, was the most inept and ineffective Congress by the Republican majority in modern history. And they had a larger majority than what they're going to have in this next Congress. So we think that just like last Congress, where Democrats were needed to do the basic functionings of governing, we think there will be a role to play for Democrats in providing checks on Donald Trump, but also in trying to find some compromise to improve the lives of the American people, which is truly what Democrats' objectives are. It has not proven to be the case for Republicans, but we are not going to allow politics to overrun what we understand our responsibility to be, which is to try to find solutions for the American people. Can I be the
devil on your shoulder? Are you sure? Shouldn't you just let them F it up for a little while? Like, is that not maybe the best Machiavellian long-term strategy?
I think you're probably right. I think politically is probably right? Just like politically, it was smart for Donald Trump to submarine the bipartisan border security bill, which would have dramatically addressed and significantly addressed the problems at the border and in our immigration system. And he submarined it because he wanted the political issue. And there's no question that was helpful to him in this election. I think that if we descend into tit for tat politics over people all the time, we will descend into more ineptitude, more polarization, more partisanship. And at some point, and yes, Democrats are all too often seem to be the only adults in the room, but I am of the view that we cannot let politics be the tail that wags the dog. And that we really do need to make sure that we are taking our obligation seriously. And our obligation is what the people sent us here to do, which is to work, not to fight.
A noble notion. We're going to keep a dialogue open on that. Okay, lastly, looking at the electoral failure of Democrats, looking back, I mean, there are a lot of different things out there that people are saying. The kind of buckets that I put them in is there's like an economic bucket that the Democrats' economic message or policies failed. It's like a cultural bucket. The Democrats shouldn't be so far left on some of these culture war issues. There's just a messaging bucket. We didn't go on enough podcasts. We didn't talk normal enough. And then there's just like bad luck, global inflation, and hopefully Donald Trump gets a recession, and that'll solve everything for us. So like where among those kind of four categories, what feels the most salient to you looking back as the fail point?
Yeah, look, I think there is truth to all of them. And there's some element of all of them. And so it is easy to try to pick one over the others. But I do think a couple of things really jump out to me on this. And the most frustrating thing for me is that it seemed like whatever Donald Trump's economic message worked a lot better than Democrats' economic message. And the thing that was so striking to me about Bernie Sanders' statement after the election, where he says that the Democrats have lost the working class and that what the Democrats need to focus on is a higher minimum wage, paid family leave, affordable health care, lower prescription drug costs. And I went down the whole list and I said to myself, Every single one of those policies is supported by the vast, vast majority of Democrats. Those are Democratic policies. They are opposed by Republicans. And somehow we allowed the electorate and even Bernie Sanders to think that it's the reverse. And that to me is part of meeting people where they are. And rather talking about things related to identity politics or to culture wars, we need to talk more about what we plan to do to help people. And it's as simple as that. And look, we have to address the issues that the people care about. So if Donald Trump spends tens of millions of dollars on a misleading trans ad, we have to say, well, actually, that was a Trump policy. And then we can move on to talking about the policies that we care about and that we want. But we can't gaslight the American people into not feeling what they feel or to not believing what they believe and just pretend like it's not an issue and we just want to talk about abortion or something else. We have to address these issues head on, and we have to be able to then have a positive message that explains coherently to people why our policies are the ones that will help them. And that was just a massive gap. And part of it is because we got distracted by these extraneous issues that don't matter as much to the vast majority of American people. And we allow the Republicans to distract because they want to distract on those issues because they know if we dig into the meat of policy, people will realize that the Democrats' policies are the ones that will help the vast majority of the American people. And the Republicans' policies are the ones that will help the top 1%. And that's it. So that's where I think we need to find some common ground and common purpose moving forward.
All right. Thank you so much, Congressman Dan Goldman. We'll keep the convo going. Everybody else, we'll be back tomorrow for a lengthier discussion on this Dem autopsy stuff with a first-time Bulwark guest. Look forward to doing that. We'll see you all then. Peace.